Land use controls, regulations. We're going to combine a couple of sessions in here. Both of them are shorter, so we're going to cover them both instead of, unless y'all want to just come back for another night.
Don't play, Steve.
No, no. We'll get it all covered. This is what we've got to look at. Government rights. And you're going to look down through this list and you're going to see we've talked about some of this stuff already. Zoning. We're going to have some disclosures and property conditions we might want to look at a little deeper. And then we got some private controls down the bottom. I know we talked about that with deed restrictions. We're going to talk about it a little bit more. And up on the top, this section actually has 8. These 2 right here, there are 3 questions in here, and this other's got 5, so there's 8 questions.
Total 8, okay.
A total of 8 in this section tonight.
Okay.
First part, government rights and land. Taxes, Ontario's favorite subject. We're gonna talk about mills. I'm gonna explain it to where we can say, I see how this works.
Okay.
Eminent domain, that's something that the government can do to get land to use for public good. It may be to raise more taxes, but still it's how they do things. Escheat, that's where the state cheats you out of your property if you don't have any relatives. You die intestate, which means without a will. Here we go. Property taxation is a constitutional right that's handed down from the state level down to the counties, which are handed to the cities. Each one of them can put levels of taxes on you. You'll have, in our state taxes, y'all seen like we have our sales tax here of about 10%. Well, all of that doesn't go to Hoover.
No.
I think 4 cents of it goes to the state. Part goes to the county, part goes to the city, and then other municipality entities, I guess you'd call them entities, like school boards, they can put a little tax on it too. So you can have several layers of tax just on your property. And this is to support public services. My wife does not understand, said, the house is paid for, why do we have to keep paying property taxes?
I agree.
And I said, well, don't you want the roads to go to the grocery store? Do you want the fire department to come if we call them? Do you want these things? He said, yeah, but we've already paid for them. No, it doesn't work that way. It's kind of like
Life
insurance, yeah.
You pay it.
You got to keep paying that. All these things, if you want the service, you want these things, you got to keep paying for them. It is the word ad valorem, that means according to value. That will be broken down into a couple of levels. They have the assessed value and then the taxable value. And we're going to break those 2 apart. Public lands. That's one of the things that she didn't understand either about taxes on libraries. She said the library doesn't have to pay taxes. No, the library, the police department, the fire department, they don't pay taxes on their buildings. What profit companies do, but public services like that don't pay taxes. And we're going to get into the different zoning classifications. They have different rates. Now here's Ontario's favorite word is mill. She said she had 3 test questions on mill. Now, out of 100 questions, you got 3 on them. This is something we might want to spend a little more time on. Mill is, a lot of these Latin words they throw on us. Here's another one. Mill means 1/1000th. They say the word actually came from the Roman soldiers. Their feet were like 12 inches, and it took like 5,280 of them to get to a mile. So that's how it all came about. But it's 1/1000th. And that is, we're going to see how it breaks down to us $100 worth of taxes on $1,000 worth of assessed value. taxable value. Now residential, if you're living in it as your primary residence, it's got a homestead exemption to it. Homestead, we start with our assessed value, not appraised value. Don't get those confused. Assessed is sometimes close to appraised value, sometimes it's not. But let's just say they think your house is worth $100,000 is what the tax man says. That's your assessed value. If it is a residential property, they're going to tax you at 10% of that assessed value. So they're going to say you're going to be taxed on $10,000. And our mill rate, if it's 10 mills, then you're going to pay $100 for every $1,000 worth of assessed value. So you had an assessed value of assessed value of $100,000, and they're taxing you at 10%. That's on $10,000, and it's at 10 mills. That's going to be about $1,000 worth of tax on your $100,000 property. Keep this in framework of what you know, your house. It's worth, you know what your assessed value is, and you know what you're taxed on. When you get a tax mill problem, bring it back to something you know and work from there, because they'll give you every opportunity to figure this as 1 over 1,000, 1 over 100, or 1 over 10.
Yeah.
And they'll have all those answers on there for you. Just getting your decimal place in the wrong place. They know you can work it a bunch of different ways. Other properties. Now, they're your same house. If you're not living in it, say you've got it as a rental property, then it's taxed at 20% of the assessed value. So your taxes will double. And a lot of owners don't realize that and say, well, I can just rent it. Yeah, and then you got a month's rent's going to go toward property taxes,
Right.
in addition to the what you were already paying. Now, property taxes. Remember we talked about priorities of liens. First in time is first in line. You've got a mortgage, say in the middle of the year. Well, your taxes, your property taxes, jump in front of that. So no matter how many other liens you've got, the property taxes jump all the way to the front of the line. So when the property is foreclosed or sold, that's the first money that goes out the door. They will they'll send a letter to the county courthouse and say, what's the tax bill on this house as of a certain date? You might not have paid your taxes that last year. If you own it without a mortgage, that could happen. We've got one right now that we can't get closed because the seller didn't know anything on the house and forgot about the taxes. They were only $200 a year.
Oh, wow.
And he hadn't paid them in like 4 years. And the attorney is closing it said, we got to straighten the title out because they may not even own this property anymore. We're going to have to go back and redeem it and pay all that money before they can even get clear title for it.
Only $200.
Yeah. First in line is the taxes. Now, if you didn't pay those taxes like he didn't, then your tax certificate or tax debt will get published in the paper along about February, and everybody can look at that and say, oh, I can buy that house for $200. And you think, okay, well, let me go buy the tax debt on that one. Now, they will have to redeem that tax debt before they can get clear title to it. Also, in Alabama, the statutory rate of 12%. So that $200 is going to earn you 12% interest. That's why a lot of people buy the tax debt. It's not because they think they're going to get, a lot of them think they're going to get the property, but really it's for the return on their money. You can't get 12% anywhere. I wish we could take all our escrow money and buy tax debt with it. Y'all didn't hear the real estate commission. We would never do that.
We're going to edit that.
Yeah, we'll have to edit that out. Now, this is something that we talked about, our supply factors. One of them was government policy. That's tax policy. They will try to goose up sales by doing different things with taxes. What they wanted to do is increase homeownership. So they said, okay, you can deduct the interest on your home loan from your income taxes. And that was, a lot of people made their decision on whether to buy a house based on that government policy. Now, they changed the tax law, I think it was last year, and now the married deduction is like $24,000 a year, your standard deduction. Well, there's not many people that have $24,000 worth of deductions. So that's probably not going to be a reason people are buying houses in the future. These are millage rates. Here in Jefferson County, we've got the county millage rate over there is $5.01 per $100 of assessed value. That's just the county. Then you can have the cities on top of that. If I had printed this whole thing out, we'd see some school zones and different things. I'm seeing, looks like the highest one over there is $6.21.
Yeah, 621.
Somewhere around in here.
Yeah.
All right, so if you had a $100,000 assessed value on your house and you're living in it with a homestead exemption, they're gonna say your taxable value is $10,000. You would multiply that by that $6.21, and you'd have a tax bill of $621 on your $100,000 house. Y'all see how it works? Bring it to something you know. You paying property taxes, I guess. You've seen this.
I've seen it, but still don't know how to get there.
We're gonna look at one. The next slide here. Here is actually a tax. This is off of the tax record here. You've got the taxable value. Let's see, building value, extra features, land value. Remember, you break out the land. You've got a total assessed value here of just over $2 million. See over assessed value?
Yeah.
$2 million. All right, this is a commercial building, so they're taxing it at 20% of that number. See there, 405, that's 20% of our total. If this was a residential property, it would be taxable value at 200,000 roughly. Now, here's their tax. They paid, where is it? Oh, there it is, tax amount. They paid $29,000 in property taxes on this $2 million building. If you know that, you can divide these. Remember, we put it up in our T formula. We've got our tax amount up here, and our building value, or the taxable value would be our base. We just divide those two, and that would give us our millage. If they give us the millage, we can work it backwards. Just put it in the T. We've played with the T enough now that y'all say, oh, I can do the T. Of course you can. Look at me like you've never seen the T.
I saw it till there was
There it is, lady. Got that? That's one of Pete's powers. We talked about Pete. Pete's got a lot of power now. He works for the government. Pete can take your property from you. He can tax it. He can police it.
He can do anything.
And the policing is not, he can't just do what he wants to. Police powers are like taking care of, you have the fire department, the police department, all that kind of stuff. The zoning comes from the police powers. And then it's cheat. That's if you don't have any relatives and you die, then Pete can take your property.
Your wife can do anything.
All right, y'all see how this works? Okay.
I'm looking at it.
There we go. There's old Pete. Po-po power. Po-po power. To protect the public health and safety. Isn't that what our job is? Protect the public? Isn't that what we're required? Number one rule? Protect the public. That's Pete's number one rule too. Does it through zoning, building codes. We're going to talk more about building codes later on how they actually started. Eminent domain. We've got two words here we got to get straight in our head. Eminent domain and condemnation. Eminent domain is the right for people to take it. Condemnation is the process. Right? Eminent domain, process, condemnation. Now they got to take it for public use. They can't just take it because they want it.
Right.
They got to say, okay, we're going to put a park here, or we're going to, we had a case not long ago in Alabaster where there was this, I don't know, it was about 100-acre mobile home park all run down. Well, mobile homes don't pay property taxes, just the land pays the property tax. So the city of Alabaster said, hey, if we developed all this into commercial, and that's where that big shopping center where Walmart is down there, that's what they did.
In Alabaster?
Yes, they took through eminent domain all those mobile homes and said, you out. They did it through condemnation, and then they built all this commercial development. Well, now the city of Alabaster has just bucket loads of money that they didn't have before.
Right.
That's why they've got their own school system now. That's probably because of the money they got.
But is there some type of requirement that they have to give them a fair,
Yes, you have to give them fair, but not even the way it really works. That's what the law says. But when you get down to reality, when they come to you, they're going to say, okay, we know your place is worth 100. We'll give you 30. And then you can fight them for 4 or 5 years and have 20 or 30 or $40,000 worth of attorney fees.
Wow.
And then they'll give you 70.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's yeah, I don't want to get into that.
He's back from the edit.
Yeah, back from the edit. Special assessments. I pulled this just right out of the law book. Special assessment district. We have, even here in Hoover, we have areas that are not Hoover. It's right in the middle of Hoover, but it's not Hoover. It's still county. If it's county, then the Hoover Fire Department is not going. Some of them are just, you could throw a rock and hit the fire department. But it's a special assessment, fire district, and you've got to pay fire dues in order for them to get the public service, because you're not paying the Hoover taxes.
No.
So you're not going to get the Hoover services. Call the police, it's going to be the county that shows up.
Okay, right?
And y'all need to know this too. If you're living in one of these special assessments, fire district, and you don't pay your fire dues, call the fire department. They're going to pull up and make sure you're on the list and you paid. And if you haven't paid, they're going to sit there and watch it burn.
Plus them a caller like that too.
Yeah, call them. Yeah, there's a lot of them around. Just know what they are. And you can have special assessments for that. You can also have special assessments. Let's just say when the builder put your community in, they did put sidewalks in. But everybody wants sidewalks. Most want sidewalks. So somebody starts a petition. Most of the people sign the petition, present it to the city, and the city says, okay, we'll put in sidewalks for you. Well, the 100 feet of your front yard, they're going to dig it up and they're going to put a sidewalk through there, and you're getting a bill for it. That's not going to be part of the city tax.
Wow.
Yeah. Well, that once it's all through, it'll be pretty, and you'll be able to get out and
That's
walk.
less front yard though.
And less front yard.
Well, technically, you probably didn't own that to begin with, because the right of way so many feet from the center of the road.
Yeah.
And it may, go 10 or 15 feet into your yard.
Mm.
I've never convinced the city they need to cut that grass for me though.
Right, and you're not going to convince them that.
But you gonna keep on cutting it.
But that's what special assessments are. Those are improvements to private property by the government entity, and they're gonna charge you for it. Now, if you don't wanna pay it, it's gonna be a lien. In fact, they're gonna go ahead and file with the tax guy a lien on your property. As soon as they do it, you got a lien there. It's not like your property tax lien. They actually file this one. We had this happen to us. They came in and put new water. It was a private water system where we were. And we went into the city of Hoover and we wanted Hoover, City of Birmingham Water to come in. Well, everybody got together, signed the petition, and they came in, put a water line in, hooked us up, and it was $800.
Per
Okay,
household.
yeah. $800. We said, good, we want it, because our old water, you could turn it on and it'd be brown. Sometimes there wouldn't be any water at all, because
Wow.
the generator or something would go out and you couldn't get water. We wanted it. So they said, okay, you don't have to pay this all at once.
Uh-oh, that's what he-
You can pay it, $100 a year. I'm good with that. We lived there about 2 more years and moved, and we said, I wonder if they're gonna find that out. I didn't have a real estate license then, I didn't know. Sure enough, they did, because when we went to closing, there was a deduction, a debit to the seller for, I think it was $600 for unpaid special assessments of that water that they put in. So you're not gonna slip by them now, they know who you are. You got some other things, improvements by the homeowners association. You live in a condominium. Well, remember the condominium, you only own the airspace in here, and the paint on the wall, the carpet. You can't take the wall down, you can't put a window out, but let's just say the building's 30 years old and the roof is leaking now, and they've had a roofer come in, and 3 roofers have been in, and they've got the lowest bid. And they call you, and well, they don't call you, they send you a certified letter probably saying, our low bid on this is going to be this much, and your portion is $5,000. Ouch! Why am I having to pay that? Well, that's just the way condominiums work. You got to pay your fair share for everything. Fortunately, they don't do all the buildings at once. They'll stagger them so you don't bankrupt you.
Yeah.
It could. New building, new roof, and it will become a lien. You sell your property, and if you haven't paid all that special assessment, they know, and they've recorded it, and they will get their money. Also, your HOA fees. If you don't pay those, they become a lien on your property, and they can actually force you into selling it if it gets too far behind.
Wow.
I don't know how far behind you'd have to get, but they've got the right to do that. All right, that was our first little section. Knocked that out pretty easy. Next one, government controls. We got a few of those. Get into some of this stuff deeper, and some new stuff that they put on the test about flood zones and wetlands. Government powers in zoning and building codes, all those are government powers. They have the right to regulate the type of structure, the size, the placement, and the use. Just because you own the property doesn't mean you can do what you want with it. Let's just say you've got you're living in a community, and one of your neighbors decide, well, I'm going to turn my house into a bar.
Uh-oh.
Uh-oh, that's right. All the neighbors say, Well, they've got all these zonings in there to protect you from that happening. That's the police power to protect the public, and it protects your property values too. Just like the HOA rules. They're there not to be mean to you. They want to protect the property values. If they start allowing people to store, refrigerators on their front porch,
Couches.
then property values will start going down. We looked at the 4 pictures about the stages of a neighborhood. That's what happens. Somebody puts a refrigerator on their porch, and next thing you know, there's a car sitting out there on blocks.
Mine have sent us letters. You got weeds in your flower
Yes.
bed, and you need to freshen up your mulch.
Yes.
Yes, they're very picky.
I got a letter today from property out in West End from the city of Birmingham saying the grass is too high. And if we don't get it cut, they'll cut it for us.
And it's gonna be triple.
Oh, it
It's
won't
gonna
be
be
cheap.
triple.
Won't
It's
be
gonna be
cheap.
triple.
But that's their power. They can do that. They've got ways to bulk zoning. Bulk zoning, an example of that is downtown Birmingham. Well, y'all know downtown Birmingham is on the flight path to the airport. Well, it wouldn't be a good place to put 70 or 80-story buildings on the flight path to the airport. So they've got bulk zoning over, I don't know how big of an area down there, but you can't put anything over 34 floors. And that's, I guess, the minimum height an airplane can be when they're coming into land. That's bulk zoning. Aesthetic, that's back to what you were just talking about with the, you gotta have a certain type flowers probably. The mulch has to be a certain color. The roof has to be all the roofs look just alike. Some of them said you've all gotta have a red front door. And if you've driven down, every mailbox looks just alike all the way down. You wanna take yours out and put one of those bass fish where they open the mouth.
Oh, that's too much now.
No!
You can't have that.
Yeah, I promise you're gonna get a letter from the HOA on that.
They gonna come and take it down themselves.
Okay, got that incentive. All right, that's where they would give like tax breaks. How about Amazon, that new distribution center out in Bessemer? What's the chances they'll pay any taxes out there for how many years?
Probably not 5. Probably
Yeah.
not less than 5.
They probably built roads for them.
Yeah.
Working on
They
it.
put lights up.
Put the lights up, electric stuff coming in. No telling what kind of fire suppression that went in there. What, you can imagine what the city of Bessemer had to do, their fire department alone had to do to make Amazon say, okay,
Yep.
you'll protect our stuff and we'll build here.
Wow.
That's incentives. But what did it do?
Jobs.
Jobs. Lots of jobs.
Taxes, as far as,
Yeah,
but taxes as far as they can probably charge more taxes, the city can't, because you have another, commerce coming.
yeah, the city will make more taxes. How about all the new homes that'll pop up around there?
Oh, yeah.
That will encourage growth and supply and demand. Right now, when they announce that, everybody said, no, that's never coming. But boom, there it was. All of a sudden you got caught. Where are we gonna put all these people? They may be driving, all the way across Birmingham now because they can't find affordable housing near their job.
Right.
Those are not $50 an hour jobs. So you gotta have affordable housing there, and they've got to plan ahead for that. Directed highest and best, that may be the highest and best use. Now, what about land around there now? It's
Yeah.
gonna develop into retail.
Yep, it is.
As the people come in, you think they're gonna need another school there?
More stores.
More, fire department, libraries, all these kind of things that the city's gonna have to build and put in place.
They may use that watermark that Anthony Underwood done bought.
No telling what to do.
Because
then
that's who bought
there
that, was Anthony Underwood.
and there are people that, when they first heard Amazon was going there, you think a bunch of people went out and put options on
No,
property around
I
there?
can't believe it.
Probably
should
did.
have.
They
They
should
should
have.
Yeah,
They
if
should
they
have.
didn't, they should have.
Yeah,
I was one of those people saying, ain't never gonna build that out there. Why is Amazon coming there?
And look, bam, that's what it is.
And there it is.
Y'all know
Whoa.
Where is it in?
Do y'all know the address?
It's
Or
not
the-
the-
It right
Where
next to the
Walmart
Premier
is.
Oh,
Chevrolet,
by the watermark.
down about,
I know what
Belton
Power
City High
Plant
School.
Road, and that area there.
Yeah, yeah,
Road, I remember that.
right down next to the, Belton City High.
Yeah, it used to be a dynamite place there and it blew up.
Hercules,
Yeah,
yeah,
y'all remember when it blew up?
yeah, yeah, it did. A guy got killed named George Russell there.
Okay, highest and best use, the land around there will now have a higher use.
You do?
It will sell for more money now. Let's just say you got a string of liquor stores.
Yeah.
I'm thinking, Friday afternoon's gonna be the best day I've ever had in Vesper.
Sure is. Sure is.
I'll open me a store up right there, right where they're coming out of Amazon.
And they ain't gotta go to McCall.
That's
And go
right.
down there across from the civic center.
So all that property, they're gonna bid that property up.
Sure is.
We got zoning. This is not a deed restriction, but this is Pete's power. He determines what's zoned for what. They may had to rezone some of that land for Amazon. And then the land around it may have just been agricultural. And a lot of that down Power Plant Road, that's
It
just
ain't
all
nothing.
trees.
That's it. The only thing they got is the school at Premier Chevrolet. That's
Yeah.
all right next to
So it's
it.
all just trees, probably agricultural, and they're probably gonna start rezoning that around there for residential.
Mhm.
May even be high-density residential, the closer to it it is. They're restricted, we've got zoning we got 5 different zoning classifications. Y'all remember, there used to be a radio company called RCA, they made TVs and radios and that kind of stuff. Well, RCA is zoning classifications, also known as districts. RCA, and I love my acronyms. RCA is zoning. R is residential. We got a couple of different tax rates on that we talked about. Commercial, that's going to be the 20% assessed value. Agricultural, that's probably a 10, I don't know. I don't actually know what the rate is on agricultural. I think it's down here, it talks about it. There it is. Pasture lands, it's class 2, 20%. Okay, that'd be the same as commercial. But then the value is, there's trees out in the country. It doesn't have a real high value until Amazon drops in. And then all of a sudden, zoom. The tax man's gonna get more money all the way around. So he could give Amazon some of these tax breaks because everything around there is gonna come up. All right, so we got RCA, that's residential, commercial, agricultural. Then that's industrial and special purpose. And that Amazon is probably considered an industrial. It's probably what, 1 million square feet or something?
Ooh, that's a lot.
Yeah, it's just a huge, probably industrial size, ceilings, everything. And that would be a building that, remember we talked about measuring structures? One of the new questions is volume. Normally we did square foot, length times width, but volume you would multiply by the height. Amazon, those ceilings are 20, 30 feet, or I don't know how big they are. They're big. So you can multiply width, length times height, and that gives you cubic feet. That's this by this by this. Cubic feet. It'd be 3 things you're multiplying together. And then you've got special purpose properties. What do y'all think those are? Schools, libraries, hospitals, probably non-profit hospitals. The profit hospitals would probably just be considered commercial, and they're taxed at the commercial rate. Special purpose, no taxes. All right, so we got our zoning classifications: residential, Commercial, agricultural,
Industrial.
and special purpose. Down here it talks about how is it classified and the tax rates on them. This is what will be on the test. Y'all not gonna have to deal with tax rates down here. Just zoning classifications. RCA is zoning. All right, here's how you get a homestead exemption. It's assessed at 10% of its value instead of 20%. You gotta do it every year. Now this talks about its tax credit for the first 4,000. I'm not sure how all that works. I know on ours it just says, sign here if you agree with this, and okay. So I imagine everybody else is just signing and agreeing to it, but we're claiming homestead because that's where we live.
So if you're tax exempt, do you still claim homestead?
Yeah, you still do that same form, but you have to send them like proof of your wage right, or some proof. You just write in how much your income was, and you got to be over 65 to get that one. And then there's one, I think if you're disabled,
I think so, yeah.
and I'm not sure if income is a factor on that, but they just got a couple of them that you can do.
Okay.
Disabled also, if you got VA disability, you can get the funding fee waived. Mine just jumped over there for a minute, bring it back in.
Okay.
RCA is
Residential, commercial, agricultural, industrial, special.
got a couple people here. You need to know who they are and what their difference is. May be the same person, but not likely. The subdivider is the guy that will go in and say, okay, I'm going to buy 100 acres here. I'm only a mile from the new Amazon place, and I saw this coming, and I got me an option on 100 acres over here. Now they're here, I'm going to exercise my option, and I now have 100 acres here. And it's just hills and trees and dirt roads where they've logged maybe once or twice. So they will do an engineered survey on it and figure out the best way to lay out the road, because every slopes. All the water's got to go somewhere. You can't throw your water onto your neighbor. All the water's got to have a path to get down to the storm sewer. The subdivider is the one that does that. And they'll survey it out and they will chop it up into lots. And this will probably be recorded as what kind of survey? Lot and block, yes.
Yeah.
The lot should have been a clue there. They'll divide into lots and blocks, and then they'll have some of that bulk zoning there. There'll be setback lines from the street. You can't build within so many feet of the street. Got to have so many feet between the property line and your house. And y'all seen houses that are patio homes? Then they've got you can't even have, there's not room for a patio. I think that's why they call them that. And you got garden homes, which have a little more space to them. But the subdivider has got all this figured out and spent a ton of money. And he also has to pay a tap fee because the sewer, Jefferson County sewer, and they're not cheap. Y'all get sewer bills from them. It's usually twice what your water bill was. I never could understand it. There's more going out than coming in. But it is. But it costs money to put that sewer line in.
And they said it just made an increase the first of last month. Because when I got my bill, I had 3 charges and I couldn't understand why. You charged me 3 times for a sewer. We didn't flush that much. That's what I told the lady. She said, you know what, you won't see that on the next bill. I was like, what?
It's just a little partial.
It was three different charges on top of it. It went up like $15. Like,
And I don't even open it. Everything's just direct debit. And it's the same thing every month.
yeah.
So I like that budget. budgeted. I don't want big bills.
Yeah,
But anyway, back to our
okay.
community.
And-
We're out there by Amazon now.
Yeah.
Got 100 acres, all divided up into lots. Now, he's done all this, but he's not a builder. Not what he does. He's probably an investor, is what he is. Got deep pockets, or knows a lot of people with deep pockets, and they all went in together. Now, they're gonna sell these to a, subdivider sells to a developer. The developer's the builder.
Right.
All right, the builder will come in and maybe buy 5 lots or 10 lots, whatever he can afford, thinks that he can sell and get his money back. And then he'll take that 1 lot and build a house on it. Now, when that developer buys that lot, there's probably a lien, because when the developer got it, he might not have deep pockets, but he had good credit and some money. So he has a lien, a mortgage on the entire 100 acres. All right, well, the developer wants this 1 lot. Well, we got a lien on that lot that's hooked to all these other liens. So we got to be able to have a method to release just that 1 piece of property from the big lien. So the developer, when he pays for this lot, the builder will pay that portion of the mortgage off. It may be 100 lots, that's 1% of the mortgage. He's going to have to pay off with the money this developer gave him. That is a blanket mortgage that he's got on there. I like to think of it as a quilt mortgage. That's why I was confused there, but I was thinking it's not. It's a quilt mortgage in my mind, because quilts are made in little squares. And you're just taking one of the little squares off, you quilt, is the way I see it. That's a blanket mortgage. So you've got clear title to that now. The developer will build a house, then he puts the grass, everything in, everything's good. Remember we talked about tap fee. Tap fee, this the builder, the subdivider, had to pay a tap fee to the county for them to put in $1 million worth of sewer. Well, you think he wants his money back? I don't know what the tap fee is. Let's say it's $2,000 per lot. Well, that'll be in that money that the developer gave the builder for the lot. That was part of the cost of the lot. And then the subdivider gets that $2,000 back that he had to pay the county for them to come out with the machines and put this sewer line, water line, all that in. Funny thing about that is they'll put all that in, but the cable people won't put the cable in. Cable people won't put a cable in until they got customers. Well, there's nobody there, so they won't put the cable line in. So they'll wait and then start getting houses in here, and go, how are we going to get to them? And then the Dish TV guy comes around and says, don't need cable. That happens all the time. A little short-sighted on the cable people. That's just my opinion. Okay, we got that. The subdivider says they have submitted the plan to the county, and their engineers, everybody looked at it. They've probably been working on this together. They didn't just drop it on them and say, hey, approve this. You better have them in from the beginning. Here's what we're going to do, how we're going to do it, and everything that's going to be done. And then they start it. Then they come in and will use building codes, another one of Pete's powers, to say, okay, you've got to make this a certain size, no smaller, no bigger. They may say you can't have an outbuilding, or you've got to have so many feet of driveway. They can say anything.
That the fronts have to be brick and not shingle siding.
Well, that won't be in building codes. Building codes The way they got started was for fire prevention. They had a lot of cities, whole cities burned down. Chicago, San Francisco. Well, they said, why don't we make these things a little more fire resistant? So they started coming up with ways to make them fire resistant, and that's how building codes got going. All right, then you get into the electrical codes. Well, that's fire related. You don't want to have, lamp cords running everywhere. You want to have enough amperage and all to where you're not overloading circuits and burning the house down. Those are building codes. And as this developer is building houses, when he first lays this, most of them are slab now. When they first lay that slab, it stops. And then a building inspector's got to come out and check the slab, and the plumbing's in at that time too. They'll check to make sure the plumbing actually, it goes downhill. I've seen them, they'll take a tennis ball and like drop it in at the high point, and the tennis ball should roll all the way out to the end of the sewer pipe. And if it doesn't, then he's gonna say, we got a problem here.
Yeah.
And then as the house keeps coming up, different inspectors will come in and check for the building codes. They got permits and all that, the building codes. Okay, got the tap fee covered. And these are different from your homeowners associations or your CC&Rs that are written into the deed. Remember those? Covenants, conditions, restrictions. That'll be, I think we got one coming up here in a minute. So this is a master plan. This is what the city of Bessemer has. They have a master plan saying as the city grows, this is what we want to happen. I'm sure Amazon dropping in the middle of it changed their master plan, but they were probably good with that. They have a new master plan that's better than the old one to show growth. They got money to grow now.
Is that public?
Yeah, that's master plan is the county level.
I was thinking, could we see it, or is it just something that they
I'm sure it's public record.
have? Okay,
I don't know if you can find it on the internet
yeah.
or you have to go down there. There's a, right by the railroad track downtown Bessemer, there's a history museum. They may have something like that there
Okay.
from 30, 100 years ago. Bessemer actually at one time was bigger than Birmingham. It was where they were making steel out there. And Bessemer was growing before Birmingham ever came out of the ground.
With National Bridge.
Yeah, all that was going on down there. Zoning, I said, it's a master plan comprehensive that allows the city to grow in an orderly manner. Okay. There's a master plan. You can go on the intranets, the Google it. Go on the Google, you'll see that. Building codes, we just talked about those and how they enforce them with the permits, and then after all the inspectors have been through and the last one is through, they will give you a certificate of occupancy. Without that, no one can buy the house and move in it. But that means all the codes were met. The sewage will actually drain downhill. The electrical system will handle the electricity we need. You go in some old houses, like from 1930s and 40s, and there'll be like one little plug in the room. And it's got like that wire that's wrapped in paper.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, some weird stuff in these old houses. All that needs to be torn out and brought up to code. That's fire hazards. And that's the whole purpose behind building codes, was fire. Now we got another planned, besides the master plan. Within the master plan, you can have little plans. A little plan is the PUD, P-U-D, Plan Unit Development. That's where within the master plan, a subdivider, developer will come up with their own little master plan for an area. An example here is River Chase. Any of y'all remember when River Chase was built? Back in the 80s maybe? Everybody's putting brass and glass and everything in River Chase, brass and glass. All the houses were built in that area, but they had a master plan called a PUD. It was a planned unit development. Everything, it was a 6 sections. So it was 3 miles by 2 miles that they planned everything, right down to that little fake lake right there by Highway 31.
Yeah.
That's, you know, it just looks good. And then you drive through the trees, and then you've got the office parks that are just
Yeah.
beautiful. And then you've got insurance companies.
Yeah.
And then you get on out of that, and you've got multifamily apartments, you've got retail, and you've got single-family homes.
Wow.
I think they're on the other side of Highway 31. So everything was drawn out. This whole thing was master planned as a PUD, planned unit development. Everything was planned out. It's more efficient use. Another thing they're doing now is called clusters. Think of downtown as a grid. Everything's straight lines this way and straight lines that way. And most of your home communities were set up as grids too. They would go in, put streets in, just running like this, and then every now and then they have a little cul-de-sac or something. But they were pretty much standard size lots, maybe a half acre. Everybody gets a half acre here. The cluster system is they said, okay, you don't need a half acre. Why do you need a half acre? You can get by with 80% of a half acre. Let us have that 20%. So your lot will be just a little smaller. And then this extra land that they had will become public or community land. The one that comes to my mind is down behind Home Depot on Highway 280 called Edenton. You go in there and you've got condominiums or townhouses, I think they are.
They got that big.
And and then behind the townhouses, there's like 300 feet or more before the next townhomes on the other side. And they've got football fields and soccer fields and just huge open areas out there. That's a cluster system. Everybody gets a little bit less land, and then there's a big chunk that goes as community.
I don't see that.
Yeah, it's I need to get a
Would that be the same as the area if you go up 280? I mean, yeah, 280, all the way to the top of 280 where Highland Lakes is, drop back down the hill.
I think
You went
that's
too far,
probably
you
the
go
old,
too
that's
far.
the grid system there.
Oh, okay.
And those people up there, they're not giving up any of their land.
Oh, okay.
And it's not half acre.
Well, it's actually it's past Highland Lakes. You drop back down going into Chelsea and you make a left on that.
Dan, those are newer,
I
that
can't
probably
think of what that
could
is.
be.
And I can't think of the name of the area, but they got their own little stores and.
Could be done.
That's,
No,
okay, it's not though.
okay.
Could be. All right, you got the plan unit development, and River Chase was one of the very first in the whole country. Was. We got another first here, Office Park.
Okay.
Out on 280 was one of the very first office parks in the whole country. And they're still using that. That's been there, what, I don't know how long time.
Behind, where the summit is?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, all those offices down in there, that's just, it was developed as Office Park. Okay, got that. Add one. According to value. And remember, we got two numbers there we gotta be interested in. One is the tax assessor will use bulk assessing methods for, like, let's just say that community we were just talking about, Edenton, they all about the same size, all built at the same time. They're all gonna have about the same value. So they'll come up with a value for one or two, or they'll use a sample of all that have sold around here in the last little bit of time, and they can say, okay, well, here is what we think the value is. It may be $250,000. That's what we think these are worth. That's gonna be the assessed value. But then they're gonna come down, if you're living in it, and tax you on the taxable value. Homesteaded, you're living there at 10% of this big number. You've got it as a rental, it's gonna be 20% of that number as the taxable value. What does PEAT stand for?
Police.
POPO,
Eminent domain.
eminent domain, and the other word that goes with that is, condemnation.
Taxation.
okay, and then the T,
Taxation.
Tax.
Taxation.
It's sheep.
E is gonna cheat you out of your land.
Mhm. Don't take.
He got power now.
Yeah, he do.
100 or 1,000.
1 over 1,000. And get it straight in your head, what
Yeah.
yours, because if you need to, draw yours out on that. They're giving you one piece of scratch paper.
That's it.
And you can draw yours out and think it out, because this is hard to figure out.
Yeah.
But once you figure, oh, I see it's this percent, that, and that's about what I'm paying, yeah, I got that one right, because they're gonna give you, you can put that decimal place in 3 different places there. They'll let you.
Eminent domain.
Eminent domain, the bottom one,
And C.
Condemnation.
Okay.
condemnation, yes. That you need to know, eminent domain and condemnation.
Plan unit development.
Yes. There's another one that goes with that called MUD.
Mix.
It's a, yeah, mixed unit development. Those I don't think, well, we do have some of them now downtown, where you'll have street level will be retail.
Mhm.
And then above them you got lofts. The multi,
Some up on 280?
yes, by the whole Paycheck grocery store.
The whole page.
The whole paycheck, what is that?
Whole Foods.
Yeah, right next to that.
Oh. I was like, I've never seen that. I'm trying to
Everybody
picture
knew
it in my
that.
head.
That multi-unit development, but a lot of times those will be multiple stories. You'll have, retail on the bottom, and then some condos, maybe several levels of those, or maybe offices, and then condos. You may have a grocery store. There's a grocery store downtown now that you don't go in on the first floor,
Yeah,
or
it's
you do?
one in, is it 280? It's a Target that you have to go up the elevator to.
Yes, that's, yeah, you park underneath it and ride an and put the buggies on the escalator.
There's Brook, what is it, Brook Island?
Yeah, Brookwood Mall.
Yeah.
Oh,
Right
yeah,
next-
Brookwood.
Brookwood
Brookwood
Mall,
Mall,
yeah.
yeah, that's true.
Okay, this is something new. And in the next 20, 30, 50 years, this is going to really get more and more important. Flood insurance. Flood insurance, this is, let's see, this is just a law that they put in. We got 2 different classifications. 100-year floodplain, that's where they think there's a 1% chance your property will flood in 100 years. The 500 is, there's a 1% chance it'll flood in 500 years. Well, a lot of the properties that weren't supposed to flood, even in the 500 year, are flooding now. So we got, this is something that's coming. Here we got, this is something I did want to go to show you this. Let's see if we can.
Blood's on
Okay.
down. Blood's on down, on Long Road. Is that over by the bowling alley? No, that's not, that's just, this is Blood's on over there.
Yes, yes. That's where we are, the little red dot. That's where we're sitting right now. The flood zones, I don't see any around us. This is kind of high ground right here. But let's back out a little bit, or back over a little bit here. We have to go, here it is. This ain't working, there it is. That's a flood zone right there. Not far from where we are, but y'all know where this is. That's Highway 31 is right here. This is Star Lake, y'all know where that is? Right, the old, the Jefferson County tag place. Right?
Oh, yeah, up there.
Yeah. Up TJ
Past-
Maxx,
just pa-
yeah,
Yeah.
TJ Maxx, and then you got the car dealers,
Yeah.
Hendricks.
Mhm.
I say Hendricks is here.
Mhm.
That's probably Hendricks right there. All right, you can come in. There's a Krispy Kreme right up there.
Mhm.
All right, behind this residential area, there's Star Lake, Hoover Country Club. That's the golf course. You can see part of the golf course there. Most of the golf course is in the flood zone.
Mhm.
I've seen it flooded. I used to live right here
Mhm.
on that. Yeah, I mean, I was right on the edge of it. Patton Creek went around our yard. We were there 10 years, and one day it came right up to the back door. I mean, if it had rained another 10 minutes,
Would have been in the house.
it would have been in the house. But all that, this is where the car dealers, let's say here's, this is 31, so those car dealers are right here that flood.
Mhm.
Now remember the cars floating? That was right up there. Well, all this is flood zone, all the way down that Patton Creek. You can see it all the way down. So if you're selling property down in there, you need to be aware that it may be in a flood zone. Because if it's in a flood zone, then you're gonna have to have, let's see, I gotta get out of here. How do I do that?
Good question.
Oh, goodness.
You got that all right.
Yeah, I got out of it. That's the only one I think we're gonna go to on a slideshow. Okay, here we are. Flood insurance. Go there. I'm gonna tell you about that. Flood insurance is right here. Do you have to have flood insurance? Well, it depends. You got a mortgage? You got a mortgage? You're gonna have to have flood insurance. Flood insurance, I think the next one here, how much does it cost? $100,000 house, you're gonna have $800 a year in flood insurance. Yeah, that's as much as your hazard insurance
Oh, my
is.
goodness.
So if you're in that flood zone, your
Wow, that's a big
property
deal.
insurance plus flood insurance. Now let's pretend we're down within, say, 10 miles of the Gulf. We're in Gulf Shores.
Oh, well, you know you.
There's some rivers down there. Let's just say one of them's called Dog River. Let's just say you're on Dog River. Down there, you're gonna have your homeowner's insurance, and you may actually be in an unincorporated area there, so you're gonna have a fire assessment for the fire department to come. You're gonna have to have flood insurance because you're on the Dog River, and you're within so many miles of the coast, so you gotta have hurricane insurance. And that's gonna be another $800 or so. So these are the kind of things, due diligence, that we need to be thinking about. Somebody said, oh yeah, I'm gonna retire and move to Dog River down in Gulf Shores. You think, okay, have you thought this thing out now? I know it sounds like a good idea, but you got 3 insurances that are gonna lay on top of you that you weren't expecting. Got the mortgage, you're gonna have to have it. Wetlands. This is new on the test. What is a wetland? Well, down there around Dog River, that is a wetland. If y'all been down there, there's like the intercoastal waterway that goes from the Mobile Bay back over, and it's just all just like swamp. You got this, what's that called, grass reeds or something that sticks up out of the water, but the water is only this deep. Well, the wetland says that wetlands area where the water covers the soil near or at the surface all year or most of the year. That's a wetland.
Including during the growing season.
This is new on the test. You got categories of wetland. Titles. I don't think we got any of that around here. I don't know if we got any. I don't know of any wetlands around here.
Think of nowhere wetland.
Yeah, I don't know of any here. They're all probably down close to the coast. Everglades, that'd probably be a wetland, the whole thing. Salt-loving shrubs, trees, common tropical climates such as southern Florida. And then we got non-inland tidal wetlands along rivers and streams. Riparian.
Riparian wetlands.
That's what they look like. So you got like a river coming through here. That may be Dog River.
That'd be
And
gone.
that's the Mobile Bay right there.
And if it
What
was-
is that watershed boundary
Um,
at the time?
oh, that's,
Ooh,
this
to
is the
right.
wetlands in here. And then outside of this, it's not wetlands.
Oh, okay.
But in here, you've got this kind of grass and the water under it. Down here, this is probably, you can't even walk in this.
It kind of reminds me of swampland.
Yeah, swampy, that's what
Yeah.
it's gonna be. But there are a lot of critters
Of course.
I'm sure
that
it is.
live here,
All
that's
kind of
their
critters.
home.
Yeah.
Down in the Everglades, they got pythons 30 feet long now. They love it down there.
I know they do.
Plenty to eat,
Yeah, plenty of folks.
nobody in there bothering them. I'm not going in there and bothering them.
I know I am, but you got some fools with you.
But that's your wetlands. Okay, we knocked that out. Let's do one more thing here and then we'll take a break.
Is that the same, is that still under land use control?
Yes,
Okay.
that would be government land use
Government
controls,
land.
not private land use. This is-
Okay.
That's all government wetlands. Advertising disclosures. We got 2 or 3 things here. This one is on lead-based paint, environmental concern. It was outlawed in 1978. It was actually, they quit using it several years before that. But the law took effect. If you've got a property that was built after January 1st, 1978, you've got to do a lead-based paint disclosure. We saw one of those, I think in another, did we see one of those?
We
Okay.
did.
You gotta have that and the booklet that goes along with it. Now this is serious stuff, lead-based paint. I kinda get off the deep end on this because when I first started teaching this, I just blew right over it until I started looking at it a little deeper, and it's nasty stuff. I'm concerned that I may have had lead in our house because it was built in the 20s. And I was crawling around eating paint and chewing on the woodwork.
But you still,
And I kidded about me going to Birmingham schools and I can't spell. They released the list this
I
weekend.
saw that.
Oh,
The elementary
Failing
school I
schools.
went to, failing, and
Still.
Jones Valley High School, failing still.
Yeah.
They still don't have enough money teaching the letters. Don't be so critical. I went to a failing school and I ate lead-based paint. I chewed on it all the time. My dad was a chemistry teacher and brought home mercury for me. I used to play with this stuff. Don't be nice to me. I may fall over dead.
Oh, no.
Man, who's gonna turn your credit in?
No, me, I can't die. No.
Nice.
No.
We're gonna talk a little bit about lead-based paint here. There's the form. And it's all the sellers, I've done, I don't know how many hundreds of these. I've never ever had a seller tell me, yeah, I know about lead-based paint in that house. They always check number 2 right here. Seller has no knowledge of lead-based paint or hazards in this housing. And then you go down here and said, no, I don't have any records of it either. I had some carpet put in my house a few years ago, and Lowe's did it. And they said, well, we're going to send somebody out to do a lead-based paint test before we put the carpet in. I said, no, you're not. No, you're not. The house was built in the 50s.
Yeah, I know, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Now you come out and do a lead-based paint test in my house,
No,
and then when I get ready to sell it, I can't do that. I gotta say, yeah.
I have a little knowledge of it.
And we got some records too.
We have a few records of it.
But you know what, Steve, I used to, as a property manager, I kind of, just kind of like, skimmed through it. But Cold Case Files had an episode where the landlord did not let the tenant do a lead-based paint disclosure. And they had a child about 2 years old, she died. And they end up finding out it was the lead poisoning. And he doctored up a lead-based disclosure. He ended up getting some time for it.
No, you did.
Should we fix and talk about it more, but the tenant or the purchaser has the right. So right here, purchaser acknowledges, I got copies of these, I received the pamphlet, and I've got a 10-day window that I can do my own test, or I'm waiving that right. You as the agent also have to initial right here saying, yes, I gave them the pamphlet,
Yeah.
I gave them the form, and they acknowledged everything, and you actually have to sign it too. Keep this in the files. This is one you probably want to keep more than 3 years, because like these problems are not coming up in 3 years. It's going to be 10 years out.
So if you have a seller and they have no knowledge, so they say, and then there's a buyer that wants to do a lead-based
They got the right,
and they
Yes.
do that
yes.
and find out that there is lead.
If they got kids, just seriously, what should you tell
Do you know more about, you know?
them? Yeah,
Okay, so I was just
you
trying
got
to see.
fiduciary duty to your seller to get them the highest, best deal. But
Right.
if you know you're gonna move young children into a house that you know now has lead-based paint, you got a duty to protect the public.
Okay, I just was trying to make sure.
Wow.
Don't let them turn out like me.
Oh, my goodness.
I know it's there, I know it. Then the living by U.S. Steel, I told you about the iron filings, we can pick them up with a magnet. Oh, that's in me.
Yeah.
I'm a walking time bomb. Now, we got all that. There's the booklet required.
Yes.
Required, we got a stack of them in here, get them down at the Board of Realtors. Probably get them from EPA as well. Here's how you can reorder them. That's what you'll see. You see how it peels off, and it's got a kind of a look to it. I think they call it alligating. It looks like alligator skin, the way it peels out.
Separates.
Yeah, the way it separates out. A couple of highlighted things here. Lead poisoning, #1 environmental health risk to children in the industrialized countries. Lead, powerful neurotoxin, interferes with the development and function of most all body organs, particularly the kidneys, red blood cells, central nervous system.
I saw where during the debate that subject came up about the lead-based. They were trying to say that they would eradicate it within a certain number of years. All housing would be free of lead-based lead poison. I was like,
Here's the problem. Gets in your brain. You gotta have reduced IQ.
Oh.
I barely got 80. I can see 100 up there, but I just can't read. I don't know how people get there. Learning disabilities, attention deficit. You say I get sidetracked so easy? It's lead. Lower educational achievements, higher rates of high school dropout, and the long run children who are lead poisoned may be less likely to become positive contributors to our communities, and they fill up the jails.
Well, you standing out there, you ain't in jail.
Yeah.
That them on being a pimp.
For a lead-based paint. I don't know nothing about it in my house. Lead-based paint video, we're not going there. We've got enough. I mean, this is bad, bad stuff. The lead-based rules, we got the rules here. Requires the contractors, if you disturb a building that's got lead-based paint in it, what is square feet? I think it's 6 square feet. All right, this board right here is 4 feet by 6 feet. So that's 1 foot of this all the way across. If you disturb that much, let's just say you're taking a window out. That's more likely where lead-based paint was on woodwork.
Right.
So if you're replacing a window, you're going to have a certified lead-based paint contractor do it. You don't need to do it yourself.
Is it like a best?
Yeah, because you got to have certain type of respirators.
Yeah.
You got to have what's it called? A negative pressure in this room. Seal the room off.
Yeah.
So, and if there are small children living in here, we got even more problems.
Yeah.
Because now you're going to have dust
Right.
that the kids are crawling around and licking their hands.
Yeah.
There's a pamphlet again. That just goes on to daycare centers. I wouldn't want to have to do lead-based paint remediation in the daycare.
Me either.
I don't think you could, no, I wouldn't take that risk.
Nope.
So just tear the building down.
Yep.
My goodness.
Be through with it.
Renovation right, this is just a little on how to do it. This is an article on the Google that says this back in the last year. Sherwin-Williams and a couple of other paint manufacturers
Right.
got sued. I don't know where it was somewhere out west. $400 million they're going to have to pay into a fund to do lead-based paint remediation. $400 million, just 2 or 3 companies. Well, because they manufactured lead-based paint. And it's just like, all these other things. He manufactured asbestos. Everybody's using asbestos for everything. It's 30 years down the road that people are getting mesothelioma and dying. And now those manufacturers all declared bankruptcy to keep from paying. Watch Sherwin-Williams and some of these other big companies in a year or two when it hits the fan and they say, wait a minute, we can't pay $400 million. We'll file bankruptcy.
Right.
Just learn more about this. Maybe you one test question on it, but I mean it's deep. There's a lot of stuff going on here with lead-based paint. There it is, 6 square feet. I got sidetracked on this because it is so important. One of the most important things that we actually talk about is lead-based paint. And this is the new one coming.
Playground rubber chip.
Rubber chips. They causing issues too. Where they took tires, y'all seen playgrounds where they took tires and ground them up into little chips. so the kids can fall on it, won't hurt them. Well, they're breathing this dust in and that hurts them.
Oh,
Yes, it's almost as bad as lead-based paint.
I got rubber mulch.
oh,
Well, it may be from ground up tires. Because rubber, when it breaks down,
It gives out gas.
I don't know what it gives off, but it'll get in you.
Shoot.
Yeah.
Everything get in you one way or the other, I tell you, it just ain't safe with nothing.
All right, let's do a couple of questions, get to our next session, then we'll take a break.
No?
No.
But I'm not.
What are some of the dangers?
Neurology.
Yes, pretty much all your organs,
All your organs.
especially gets
Slow
into your
learning.
brain, yeah.
Just their life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A lot of things.
Yeah,
For real.
life.
children.
Children, yes. There is an exception to lead-based paint rules, and it's housing for the elderly.
yeah.
Their brains are already,
Stop.
I'm there now, I'm a senior citizen now, I can tell you.
So you don't have to disclose it for elderly?
If
I mean,
it's
it's
a
like-
property that there are no children 6 or under.
Oh.
And we had a couple of exemptions to the, what was that rule? Discriminating on familial status. There were 2 properties that were exempt.
If they're designated
Designated
62 and up, elderly or near elderly.
55.
One person has to be 65 in the household,
Yeah.
or all over 55.
Mhm.
Well, those people are not worried about crawling around the floor and licking their hands and getting lead in them now, so
Right.
those properties,
And pregnant women also. at risk.
very, yes, that's the one
Right.
Yeah.
you really want to be worried about.
Right.
Because lead will cross the barrier.
Lead-based paint.
Lead-based paint, because you don't have to know it's there, you just have to know the year 1978. These others, you'd have to pretty much see
Yeah,
them.
you have to, you can't see radon.
No, you can't smell it either.
No.
Yeah, nope. Nope. Yes. C, do we need to read any further? D was removal of lead-based paint.
Yeah.
Asbestos is
You don't
covered
wanna get
by
started
standard
doing that.
insurance policies. No, it's not.
Yeah.
Nor is rising water from a flood.
Right.
Right.
There's just so many things in this business that just weave back and forth. That's why we see some of this stuff in the radon
I've never
section.
seen radon. I mean, I don't know why.
Well, there's what you ought to know about it. Second leading cause of lung cancer.
My
No,
goodness.
maybe I just kind of.
Yeah.
Wow.
Never known anyone that's, I know 2 or 3 people have died of lung cancer from cigarettes. But this says second lead 21,000. How many is that per day? Bunches. Every day.
My God.
What is that, like 400?
So where, I mean, I'm trying to see where is radon.
Radon is everywhere. It's in this room right now. Radon is from the natural decay
Mhm.
of uranium, I think it
Right.
is. And it
Earth.
just comes up out of the ground. Now, let's just say you've got a slab house, and they're really well built now. They're airtight. So if you've got radon all under your slab, and concrete does 2 things.
Yeah.
It gets hard and it cracks.
Mhm.
There's always a crack in the concrete.
Right.
Oh, yeah.
So there's a crack in the middle of your house, and you ain't know it's down there.
Yeah.
And the radon's coming in here, and this house is so well sealed and insulated. Where is it going?
In the person's lungs.
Yeah, you're gonna get a heavier dose of it. You know, used to, the houses had single pane windows, and you could almost feel the air blowing through them.
Right, that's true.
But now it's not that way. There are passive systems to where builders, if they can put one of those sewage pipes, like that big round
Mhm.
plastic. They'll put it through the slab, and it'll go up, and it doesn't have to go through the roof, it just needs to get into the attic,
Mhm.
so the air's not trapped in the house. So this gas will go up through there and
Right.
not get into your house.
Mm-hmm.
You're just giving it a way to escape. It says 1 out of 15 homes,
Wow.
high elevated levels. Oh, there's our mold. Mold, you see this in the house? You got a moisture issue. First thing you gotta do is find the water issue and stop it. Once you've got it stopped, then you can come back and remediate it.
Mhm.
It is so expensive to get this stuff out too. There, the people come in with the astronaut suits on,
Yeah.
and they bag it all up in, triple layer bags and take it to a special dump, which may be 50 miles from here. Just to cut that out and get rid of it, probably be several $100s. To do the room, several thousand.
I went through enough of them with HGTV.
Yeah. This is another bad one, asbestos. Asbestos is, they used it, the grammar school I went to. They had pipe, we didn't have air conditioner or anything. We had money for the letters, they sure didn't have money for air. They had water
Big
pipes
pipe
because we
over
had radiators for the heat. The hot water would flow through. Well, to insulate it, to get it in here, they had it wrapped in asbestos. When the wind would blow, we'd see that stuff blowing around the roof, just like snow. I remember that.
You're a walking
I
miracle.
am, it's a miracle. It's a miracle.
Oh my gosh.
People be like, look at him.
Yeah.
That's what it looks like.
Steve, I'm concerned now. You our teacher.
As long as you get your credit.
You waited to tell us all this stuff at the end.
Very last session. Encapsulate's the word you need to know here. Encapsulate means to seal. And you could probably take that pipe, because you don't want to stir all this stuff up.
Yeah.
They take some kind of plastic and wrap it all up nice and tight so it won't blow around. Know that you wouldn't have a duty to discover any of these things. If you know about them, you got to talk about them. Otherwise, you don't have a duty to discover. I thought I was almost through with this. We're going to time to go home before we get to the first break.
It's showing the house to prospective buyer customer, real estate professional knows if the house has water problems in the basement. Withholding information. Public adjacent company, withholding information, provides the proper maintenance reports. We have to do share relation, balance real estate professional, produce, to sell.
Wow.
B, withholding the information prevents the buyer from making an informed decision.
Right.
Go back to our word material fact.
I thought about that.
Don't you think this would be a material fact? You
Yes.
know about it. It said, you know. You know. CERCLA. This is an acronym for Comprehensive Environmental Response, some Liability Act. We just had this in Birmingham, North Birmingham. What's that? Where was this? Where there was one of our representatives went to jail because of this.
Oh, but it wasn't in college.
That was lady with the waterworks?
No.
Collegeville?
Where
Wasn't it
the
Collegeville?
soil was contaminated,
Oh,
and they were
yeah,
going
that
in
was
and telling the
Collegeville.
people, oh no, you don't want to get your soil
The
tested.
folk in the bed was taken.
Then you'll have to tell people about it.
That.
Well, the soil, it was
The guy
some
who was telling people
manufacturing,
it's fine.
Yeah, and it wasn't fine.
some manufacturing outfit that had been there and then gone, and then they built houses. Well, the soil was contaminated with
Yeah.
all kinds of bad stuff.
Yeah.
Well, this is the act that says strict liability. Anybody that has owned that land back to the beginning of time, is liable for the cleanup.
Oh, wow.
No, that means strict liability means no defense.
Okay.
This is what banks are afraid of in foreclosures. Had a bank foreclosed some of those houses, and that now they own that land, and they got deep pockets. CERCLA, the federal government, come in and make everybody that has ever owned it pay for it.
Everybody?
Everybody. And if one can't pay, it just kicks to the next one.
Oh, wow.
That's a risk with banks and foreclosing property. This is something they don't want to get involved in. They just assume you keep it.
Mhm.
But we had this here. It's in a lot of cities where you had some kind of industrial plant that had putting stuff in the ground, and then they're gone.
Yeah.
You got 3 phases. If you suspect it, do some due diligence and find out who has owned this property in the past. And you find out, well, there was an owner here that, whoa, I know they made some bad chemical. Now we need to move to phase 2, which means getting soil samples and get them tested. And if it comes back bad, then there's a remediation. That's where the big money comes in. I had a friend in Graceville, Florida, owned a pressure treating lumber plant. He had one of those, y'all seen it look like a big gasoline truck tank, where they put lumber in there and then pump in arsenic.
Oh, goodness.
That's how they pressure treat lumber, so the bugs won't eat it, won't rot. Copper and arsenic, just all kinds of bad stuff that they put in this lumber. Well, every time you open this thing up and close it, some spills on the ground. Well, he wanted to sell the land, and they were going to make him dig down, I think it was 8 feet.
Ooh, Lord.
All right, like about an acre. He's going to have to dig down 8 feet and ship this stuff about 200 miles to a special landfill. And he said, I'll just keep it and die with it.
Wow.
Wow.
And now, I don't know if he's still doing lumber there or not, but
Wow.
that's what happens. That's what it looks like. So there's, gets down in the ground, look, there's our water table, gets into the water.
Yeah.
Radon too will get into groundwater. You pulling it up in your well, it can be in the water.
We have a way of.
Underground storage tanks, same thing. They leak. All of them leak. And about mid-'80s, they passed a law. I think that's when CERCLA came in. And all these gas stations that had these leaking tanks, all of them, a bunch of them had to dig them up and replace them with the fiberglass.
Would that be the same for septic tanks?
I don't know.
Underground storage.
Yeah, I think that's all biodegradable.
Oh, okay.
Just make your trees grow.
All right, property condition, that's something, let's take our break and then come back and work on some more of this. Break time. Back from break. Gonna look at some property conditions. Alabama. Caveat emptor. That means buyer beware. And watch for caveat ventor. That would be seller beware. And that's not what it is here. It's buyer beware. Caveat emptor. This only applies to things you know about. If you know about health and safety defects such as lead-based paint, you know about the radon, anything else that's a health and safety defect, you got to talk about that. Even if the seller told you, don't you talk about that, you say, no, I can't. In our listing agreement, it gives us permission to discuss things like that. Even if the seller tells you don't, you better drop that listing before you even go any further with it, because they're going to try to cover this up. No telling what else they're trying to cover up. So don't put that risk on you. But if you know about them, you've got to disclose them. Now there are 2 types of defects. One is a latent defect. That means it's hidden. when you were going through the house with the seller, he said, oh, watch that real soft spot on the carpet there, it's where the termites coming through. I know now, he told me there are termites here. I don't have to wait for the buyer to say, what's wrong here?
Right.
I know it, I've got to tell them, because that could be a safety, it's certainly a hidden defect, that would be a material fact, but it may be safety, you may fall through the floor right there. There's another one called patent defect, and patent means you can easily see it, discover it. The carpet's gone because the termites have eaten the carpet now, and you can see the hole in the floor. You don't have to disclose that. They can see that on their own. The deal with this is, we're going to find out what our exceptions are here in a minute, but the D in our exceptions is direct question. If someone asks you a direct question, you must answer truthfully and completely. If they say, does the roof leak right there? And you know it just pours in over here. They ask you a direct question, does the roof leak right here? Now, what are you going to tell them? No.
You should even look that way.
But if they say, does the roof leak? When you're phrasing your questions, make it broad enough to where they got to tell you the truth about everything. What problems do you know about this house? Now, yeah, I know the termites and, oh, I forgot about the lead-based paint. Yeah, we had it tested, but.
So if they have an open-end question, then you have to give what you.
That's what you
because
should
that's
be
the
using.
material facts to them making the decision on what. Yeah. Okay.
Tell me all the bad things you know about this house.
Oh, Lord.
Uh-oh. And just truthfully, completely. Remember what was that saying? A half-truth is a
whole lie.
Seller disclosure. We do not have a seller disclosure form in Alabama. Not a required one. The Real Estate Commission actually has one on their site that you can download. Looks, got one. There it is. Environmental issues. Was the house built before 1978? Yes, no, don't know. Are you aware of the use of any formaldehyde, asbestos material, lead-based paint? Well, those are pretty direct questions there. Either you know or you don't. You can print this off the Real Estate Commission's website, and let's just say you're buying an old house that you know is old and got a lot of problems. I might want to give one of these along with my offer.
Yeah.
My offer is dependent on you filling this out. They don't have to fill one out, but then the offer's not any good either. If you won't fill it out, then we're not moving any further. I need to know some things before this offer's valid. So Alabama has no seller disclosure. That could easily be a test question, because what are the rules on seller disclosure in Alabama? There are not any. Don't have to have one.
Not required.
Not required. Another thing here that we'll get into somewhere, I don't remember where it is, stigmatized property, like is it haunted?
Yeah.
Well, whose mind does that ghost in? It's not the buyer's mind. They don't know about the ghost. It's in the seller's mind. Well, if you can promise me the ghost is going to stay, then we'll talk about the ghost. Otherwise, Alabama has no disclosure on stigmatized properties. We don't have to talk about it. It's a material fact, though, I believe. Like if there was a triple murder-suicide in this house, that's probably stigmatized, and the buyer would probably want to know.
They probably already know, just want to see if you're going to tell it.
Could be, and if they ask you and you say, no, uh-oh, now you have lied to them.
Have stigmatized and.
All right, direct way, we did that on the roof. What work has been done on the HVAC? And they may not know what those initials are. Now remember, we got words that we use in this business the general public doesn't know.
Right.
I didn't know what HVAC was till I got in real estate. I
That's
probably
the
had it
acronym
5
in
years
there.
before I knew what that was.
Yeah,
I just call it, heat and air was heat, ventilation, air conditioning.
Oh, the V is from ventilation.
Yeah, ventilation.
Yeah,
Is that on the tree?
And there,
I didn't see
is the
that.
home in
So this
good
was-
condition? Yeah, except for these bad things. Lucky for us, we have an acronym. Y'all got a whole sheet of acronyms.
Yeah.
Y'all got the first night of class, and they're on our website, newlocationrealty.com. You can print them off. There's, I don't know, about 8 or 10 pages of just acronyms. This is one, the exceptions to caveat emptor, which means let the buyer beware. Well, fortunately for us, they're written on our hand, and we can just look at it. We got a lot of other stuff written on there, like acres and square, and we got some numbers in there.
About 60.
Yeah, we're writing out on our fingers on that. But these are the exceptions.
Okay.
H on hand, H is health and safety. You know about some health and safety issue, you must disclose it. Must. Next one is A, assumption of duty. You are their agent. Due diligence is kicking in here, and you got more things that you need to find out about. You know it's built in 1950. Well, I'd be asking some questions about lead-based paint, asbestos, those kind of things. What do you know about that? Thing about damage in the lead-based paint, asbestos, if it's been removed and it's gone, it's no longer a health hazard. It's gone. Next one is new construction. New construction has a warranty on it. So you don't really have to worry about all these direct questions. Everything's brand new. If the plumbing doesn't work, you'll call the builder, hey, say, the water's not on.
Yeah,
It's just not working.
yeah.
Can you come show me how to get it on? And they'll come over and get it. The doors don't work right, they'll fix them. The appliances are covered by the manufacturer's warranty for a certain amount of time. And that warranty kicks in when you buy the house, not when the builder bought the appliance. So it has a warranty. And the next one, direct question, which we just beat that one up. So our exceptions are written on our hand. There's the form, and it's not required, but is available. I've only sent out this on one house, and it was in such bad condition, they didn't want to fill it out. So we just moved on. Now, any of these things would warrant further inspection. If you suspected or knew, then maybe we need to dig a little deeper. We need to have maybe a home inspector come through and tell us, what should we be asking more questions about?
Yeah.
Your HVAC system, if it's gas, gas reacts with the combustion chamber in the furnace. And over a period of time, the gas will break down that metal and it'll build up rust. And your combustion chamber can fill up with rust. And then the fire won't work, but the gas is coming out and you'll die of carbon monoxide. So if you've got a gas furnace and this thing's say 10 years old, I want an HVAC guy to go in and open it up and look in there and see.
That's right.
Is there rust in here?
Yeah.
Or is the combustion chamber cracked? If it's cracked, then the gas is, and you've got the fire, but carbon monoxide's not coming out this crack.
Right.
Anytime you got a property with gas in it, you need a, what's it called, carbon monoxide, different carbon dioxide. You gotta have one of those monitors. They got combination ones now where you can do both on one. But have one of those in the house. All right, we got the solar disclosure material facts. Zoning issues. That's something that the seller in the sales contract signs off saying, we have not received any notification from anybody that anything's gonna change in the zoning. But what if we're down by Amazon now? And we got some property down there, they don't know anything about Amazon coming in, and everything's fixing to change. You know about stuff like this, you're the agent, dig a little deeper. Ask a couple of questions that maybe uncover some other stuff. Anything that you think you need to know about, ask. They don't have to tell you.
Yeah.
Material effect,
Oh, we got a bunch of it.
Yeah.
Lead-based paint. You see you see pipe going across here, it's got this, looks like fabric wrapped on it.
Mold.
You got mold, you see mold. You walk down in the basement and you say, y'all smelled it? Smells kind of like mildew. What is this? That's what we used to call it, was mildew. Just spray some Clorox on it and wipe it off and everything's good. I mean, we were saying that 5 years ago. We were saying that.
They still say it now.
Now their whole business is based on remediating mold.
I thought you wanted
Oh, you had another one? Go ahead.
Tato.
How we could switch screens?
Right. Here's where we were trying to get to before break. Private controls. And we've seen some of these already. So we'll be able to breeze through this one.
Oh, termite damage.
Termite damage, yeah. Termite damage. You'll usually see that around window sills. Down at the bottoms where you're usually going to see it. It's nice and flat and smooth. And you see like a little bubble. But the bubble looks like a tunnel.
It is a.
Go over there and poke your finger on that bubble and see if it's soft. And your finger goes through the paint. That's a termite tunnel. And we got deeper problems. Everything's gonna stop. We got a contract working, stop. Somebody's gonna have to get in here and do a termite inspection on there and see how far it's spread. Normally it's gonna be just in one little area. Because used to they may still treat I don't think they treat the entire ground around the house. Used to they sprayed poison everywhere and then built the house. And it created a barrier. And then they would break through like one little spot and get in that window, but from there, they can go everywhere. They might not be under this window, but they may have come in on top of it now. Because they're just looking for moisture and something to eat.
Trying to be born.
Yeah, they're just trying to make a living. Right, CC&Rs, we had talked about these in the deed. CC&Rs, we looked at a deed with the CC&R, said the house had to be a certain size. You couldn't put a storage building behind it. You had to have a certain type of mailbox and all these things. You couldn't put RVs in the parking, in the driveway.
Everybody know gotta be red.
Yeah, that's the kind of thing that will be in there.
I like how you do it all.
I hope you do if every house in the neighborhood's got them.
I love
Might
red.
get tired of them. A covenant. The word covenant means a promise. A promise is made to do or not do something on the property. And in our deeds, we've got covenants. Several of them, and they're basically saying that the covenant, the warranty deed covenants that the grantor will defend the title. Now, a general warranty deed means they're going to defend that title back to the beginning of when that land was transferred from the government. Maybe 150, 200 years ago. Whoa, a lot that's going on since then. But we got what's called a Marketable Title Act, which means they've only got to go back, I think it's 30 or 40 years. If you haven't made a claim against this property in 30 or 40 years, then the title will stand. That's the Marketable Title Act. Got another covenant of season. That means the grantor actually holds and is giving you this right. Covenant against encumbrance. They don't have any any liens or anything on it, any liens that are on there will be paid off at closing. Quiet enjoyment means that nobody's going to come back against your title. That doesn't mean nobody's going to bother you. People playing music next door real loud, that's not what that means. Quiet enjoyment, that means that nobody's going to come back and attack your title, because if they do, this one kicks back in. The past owner, or past owner's not going to have to do it because you bought title insurance. The title insurance company's got attorneys that's what they do. They'll go back and figure out what's wrong and then fix it. And usually things can be fixed with a check.
Everything is money.
Write the check.
Yeah, write a check. And then they'll do whatever they gotta do, like get the title company, insurance people involved in it. Some deed restrictions. Let's see, now they are appurtenant. Appurtenant means that it runs with land, even though you've sold it to someone else. The things were in the deed or in the HOA restrictions that you bought, you're selling. So you can't, the new owner can't come in there and scrape out the red door.
Right.
And say, no, that doesn't apply to me. Yeah, it does. Just like the ones we had, defeasance, where you could defeat
Oh,
the title because you're selling alcohol on the property, and they say you can't do that. Well, you sold to somebody and they didn't read the deed, and they open a liquor store. Well, that liquor store may now revert back to the prior owner. Now, the restrictions can be bought out. Gave y'all an example of the gas station. So that it can, even though it runs with the land, it can be bought out. And then there'd be a new something recorded on top of that. So when they did the title search, they said, okay, we got a restriction here. Oh, here, wipes that out. Move on. We talked about why these private restrictions, they're upholding, you keep your property value up. If everybody's got a red door, then everybody's going to keep a red door. But if you start maybe putting stripes on yours or something, you're going to get a nasty little letter from a homeowner association.
They watch everything.
Yeah, they do. They actually patrol.
They ride around in the community.
Patrol it. Okay, owners, it's just to keep you from doing blocks in the car, the refrigerator and the porch.
That's so sad for real.
Subdivision, that's in a new home development. All of those are going to have CC&Rs in their homeowner association. You must pay dues. You must, if you move in here, you have to be in the association. You can't say, well, my house doesn't apply here.
Yeah, but it does.
Not like a union.
Yeah, it's
That's a good word, Tamara. Yeah, like a
right to work, you don't have the right to paint my door. The developer writes all this and records it, and then pertinent travels with the land. Now, the homeowner association, they will elect officers to enforce these rules. And I guess they love doing it. It's nonprofit. And we got the special assessments like the roof on the whole place. All right, here we go. This is just more detail. This was a summary here of this. Homeowner Association law, the formation, what is it, and the rules of enforcement. Pretty much what we just had in the summary. But if y'all like to read, the long version here. Here is one, a CC&R that was recorded for this. Here's the subdivision, where it is, the county, where it's recorded, when it was recorded, and then it goes down to tell you, no part of this property shall be used except for residential purposes. On down total living area not less than 1,000 square feet.
Exclusive of open porches, garages.
Yeah, it kind of lays it all
For
out here for
two-story
you.
dwelling, no dwelling shall be located near they are 20 feet from the front boundary of the subject property.
Okay, that's a
Wow.
bulk, these are bulk, not zoning, but bulk restrictions. They're on everybody, not just this one property. Well, this is not just one property.
That's for the whole thing.
Yeah, that's for the whole community.
Covenant, credit, and
Conditions and
restrictions.
restrictions.
Covenant,
Conditions.
Conditions and
Conditions.
restrictions.
restrictions,
Yes.
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 Mm.
So you're paying attention to an hour and a half ago.
Residential.
Residential, commercial,
Agricultural, industrial, special.
Special
Yes.
purposes.
Okay, we had this one earlier. Not sure why I got it here.
That's that, thing kicking back in from the.
Yeah, it's that lead-based paint in my head. I don't know where this one goes. Let's just put it here.
The developer, the builder.
I got this one, and then I had another picture, and I couldn't get it copied. I was on another computer, and I said, I gotta get it over to this computer to get it in here. But it had another picture of this house where the driveway was like this.
So it was,
You couldn't get in the garage because the driveway was so steep. When you got up here, the car would just boom, fell over. And then down here, you would hit the
parking lot in front of Thompson.
hit the street. Yeah, we got this slide already too. We've already got that one. Plan unit development, more detail, but it is where they lay out the whole thing before they ever turn the first shovel of dirt.
Mhm.
Here's the difference in these three. A plan unit development will probably have CC&Rs because everybody's going to be under rules here. It's all one big happy family. A condo, they're going to have it, and then a co-op. I don't think we've talked about co-ops. Co-op is, they're in Georgia, New York, and Florida. I don't think we've got any in Alabama. But a co-op has tax advantages. That's why they're there. You'll have, it'll be like a condo, except the building is owned by the association, and you don't buy the airspace. You get a lease called a proprietary lease. You buy stock in the corporation or the building, maybe an LLC, but all your expenses on the building then are tax deductible. Like if you had to do plumbing work or something, all tax deductible. But if you own the condo space here, you do plumbing work in it, you gotta pay for it out of your pocket, and it's not tax deductible. All the property taxes, everything tax deductible for the co-op. You get a proprietary lease, and you buy into, you get stock when you buy into it. What's Pete stand for?
Police.
Eminent domain.
Taxation, tax and issue.
What was the T, taxation?
Tax.
You got
Taxes.
And he cheat? Well,
Po-po.
are you cheat?
POPO,
Eminent domain.
Please.
eminent domain, the word that goes with eminent domain is what? The other word?
Condemnation.
Condemnation. You got right and condemnation's process. T's tax.
Taxation.
And then the other E,
Taxation.
if somebody died without a will,
Will.
that's called intestate.
And that represents what? I know the acronym, but it's.
It's cheat. It's cheat's the process that the state uses.
You
Like
mean
if
P
you,
or?
Yeah, the acronym
P.
itself.
yeah,
She's saying
What are
what
those
does,
powers?
what
The
does
powers.
the word
Powers.
Okay.
yeah.
P stand for?
That's Pete's powers,
Pete's
the
powers.
acronym letters.
Okay.
What is it, but what is it in relation to?
Yeah. I gotta go back
That
and look.
government controls.
Government controls, okay.
Meal is one
One-
over 1,000.
1,000.
One thousand. The right of government.
Take property for public use.
That's that
Eminent domain.
condemnation.
Right,
Right.
yes.
Right.
This is, they love this
Process
question.
is the condemnation.
Yeah, process, yeah, they love this question.
Yeah, right. He's telling me, oh, no, they like that question.
They like that question?
Yeah,
Oh, my goodness. So they gonna turn
It
it around.
does not include.
Tennessee.
Tennessee.
Right. The word that should be there
Yeah, it
is
would be.
tax.
Taxes.
Okay, Homestead Act, 1862.
4 cent
Um,
stamp? Ooh,
I know, right?
that's a lot.
And this was in, and that was,
That was a long time
19
ago.
Yeah.
probably 1962, and this was
Still requiring
Stamp.
more.
I was 8 years old in 62.
the Homestead Act. Is where the government wanted people to move on out into the, we had Thomas Jefferson come in here,
Yeah, he came in.
remember?
Yeah.
This is 1862 in the Homestead Act. The land, we actually got land in 1802, I think it was.
From New
I think
Orleans.
that's when we had the Louisiana Purchase.
Mhm.
All that new land, just wide open. And they wanted people to move on out there, establish towns, and, you know, the country would grow. Well, to get people to move out there, you gotta say, what's in it for me?
Mhm.
An incentive.
$20.
And that's what the Homestead Act was. It was an incentive to get people to move out there.
Wow.
They said, if you will move out there, we will give you 40 acres and a mule. That's where you could have a farm and a mule to plow it, and you could live there pretty much without bothering anybody. Then they had, what was that, when they went into Missouri, there was a movie about this, Tom Cruise, when they went out, him and
Ain't nothing wrong with your brain.
Tom Cruise?
Nicole
It was
Kidman.
a movie.
They went out, they were at the Missouri line, and when the horn blew or the gun shot, there were thousands of people that rushed into Missouri with ropes and stakes to stake out their
Their
40 acres.
Yeah, 'cause they had to wait until they
Yeah,
shot
they
the
waited
gun
till they
and
shot
then
the
they
gun.
started running. And this lady with the buggy, her and some more people was together and they was trying to race to this particular land and the man wound up giving her the land because he knew he won. And we talking about the same movie?
And so you saw,
Okay.
y'all only one saw it.
I didn't see it. I didn't have it.
These children, see these little children in here.
Y'all have heard the word Sooners?
No.
Yeah,
No.
I heard it.
Sooners, that's the
Yeah.
Oklahoma, what is it, Missouri? Where is it? Missouri? No, Oklahoma.
Cause that big football team.
Oklahoma
named that.
Sooners,
The
that's a
Sooners.
football, that's their
Yeah,
football team.
Yeah.
The Sooners were the people that didn't wait for the gun to shoot. They left like the night before and went on out there. They wanted to be there sooner than anybody else.
Yep.
There's a little history lesson to go with this.
You're right, you're right.
And then along came the Great Depression.
Oh.
The Great Depression
Way before.
is just a bad time. Everything collapsed. People lost their homes, their jobs. There were no jobs. They were just living like in these little shanty towns. They called them Hoovervilles because that was the president then, Hoover.
Hooverville.
Yeah, and they blamed it all on Hoover.
Yeah.
So they, you know, it looks like it's made out of just whatever they could find to make it out of.
Scraps and look like cardboard and pieces of wood.
If I was that cat, I'd be
Yeah.
probably headed away from there.
Yeah, I would too.
They got the pot out there ready to cook. The cat's looking at it and say, that's what my mama was yesterday. But this brought on our government assistance. A lot of things happened here to get people out of this. What is it that brings our economy up? Homeownership, home construction. Remember, we got our construction worker. Well, let's put him to work. Got materials. Well, we got materials. We just have to rearrange them. But then there was the next one: government policy,
Mhm.
physical policy. Those were the things that got us out of the Depression.
Mhm.
FHA, Federal Home, Federal, yeah, Federal
For housing.
Housing Authority. That was created to create loans, to guarantee loans. At that time, the FHA loans, they would guarantee 80%. You only had to put 20% down. Well, at this time, houses were probably, what, $5,000 or $10,000?
I hope not in.
Yeah, and that time.
Not those.
Not those.
Yeah, not that one, but, you know, a brand new house.
Yeah.
Well, right after World War II, there were 10,000. So this was, 30 years prior to that, there were probably $5,000 at that time. Well, if you could come up with $1,000, the government would insure the rest of that money. All right, now we've got something to work with. We can put people to work. Boom, they're building houses. Then they're selling them because people can buy them. And it was the same thing then that FHA are now. It's people that their credit score may not be perfect.
Yeah.
They've got lower standards for that. I don't know what it was back then. They didn't have credit scores back then. But that's how we got out of the Depression. It was home construction and home ownership. Well, if you live in a community and own your home, are you more likely to be a contributor? Yeah. Home ownership creates pride. You want to bond with your neighbors. Back then, the neighbors knew each other.
Right.
I got neighbors around me I've never met.
Yeah.
Don't know
Right.
know their car as it goes by. Never look at it. Yeah, this is the way it is now, but back then, the goal was to get people community.
Right.
And then this is a movie that I just stumbled over when I was doing this called Generation Wealth. I didn't think you had to rent it on Prime. It was like $4, and I said, I don't want to watch it that bad. I'll just wait for y'all watch for this when it finally hits the free market on there, because it's like 10 years old now. But it really describes our mindset and how we deal with money and how it's taken over our lives. And everybody's got to have something better than the Joneses.
Oh, yeah.
Was the movie on, did you look on YouTube?
I looked at the trailer.
Did you try to, did you look
I went on YouTube, and YouTube referred me back to Amazon, and it was $3.99, and I said, I don't want to pay $3.99 for it. No, all right, time to watch it right now anyway. I gotta get this lid out of my ears. All right, that's the slide y'all were looking for.
Yeah.
Here it is.